Alex Marland is chair in political trust and political leadership and a politics professor at Acadia University. He is one of our regulars, and we are happy to have him in. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
You're enjoying the summer.
Well, I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, good to have you. Let's start in Alberta. There's an important debate tonight. That riding will be having a by-election in a month's time. That's the one that the seat was given up so Mr. Poilievre could run, a very conservative riding traditionally. He'll be on stage with 10 others. Does he even have to get a message out?
Well, I mean, he needs to show to these there. You know, ironically, conservatives tend to say don't bother going to all candidates' debates. Obviously, he needs to go to this one. I think what I'm looking for is to get a sense of to what extent are we seeing a change in tone from Pierre Poilievre? Is he just going to continue being this person who he has always been, which is, kind of attacking, going for the jugular, very good at it. But it's occurring in a time where a lot of people are sensitive about that because of President Trump's antics. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what coverage comes out of that.
So you'll be looking for those signals?
I suspect he'll be fairly respectful.
Yeah. He's up against a lot of people. He's running in Battle River Crowfoot in Alberta. It seems like everybody in that riding is running against him. There's 200, there's the list, 200 candidates.
Well, they're not all in that riding. I, in fact, met one in Vancouver recently. I just bumped into him and talked to him, and he's one of the candidates running. I mean, these people are not people in the riding.
Right,
these are people who are there protesting. They want their agenda is to try and encourage conversation about changing the electoral system. I think what they're in fact achieving is there's going to be change that is needed to make sure that this sort of shenanigans aren't repeated.
Okay, so what will happen? Because obviously folks are not going to go in and face a ballot to the this extent that we saw.
Yeah, it's quite unusual. So what's going to happen is instead they are going to be given a ballot and they're going to have to handwrite the name of their candidate of choice. Now you can imagine that what's going to happen is if you are supporting Pierre Poilievre, you can reasonably, even if there's some mistakes in how you spell it, they'll be able to figure it out. But when you've got 200 odd candidates, imagine trying to go through this long list and match all the names with difficult handwriting to the list. So it's going to be a while.
We didn't have somebody change their name to Pierre Poilievre just to make it that much more difficult, did we?
There have been instances of that in the past.
Yeah. Anything comparable to this, or is this a first?
Well, it's not a first insofar as this longest ballot committee did this against Pierre Poilievre in the general election. They've had this in previous by-elections. But in terms of the handwriting and write-in ballots, I mean, these are a normal function of elections generally, but where it's really comparable is the 2021 Newfoundland election during COVID, where you had all sorts of difficulties and you had polling booths that were being closed because you couldn't get workers. So people were forced, they were even submitting ballots on sticky notes.
Alex, I want to ask you something that we heard yesterday. Typically, we're used to Alberta and more recently Saskatchewan raising concerns about equalization payments and the levels that they put into that. But yesterday, David Eby of British Columbia, who you normally doesn't speak out about these matters, was quite emphatic about the cuts to the ferry tolls that were introduced by the Prime Minister on the East Coast, and saying it's simply not fair to British Columbia. We have a large ferry service. We don't get nearly that kind of subsidy that we get here on the East Coast, and we pay in, British Columbia pays into the equalization system, so what are you going to do about it? Is that a potential problem for the Prime Minister?
Well, yeah, it is, because it's something certainly any Premier of British Columbia should be raising as a concern. The issue of raising this up about equalization, I would encourage viewers not to pay any attention to that argument, because equalization is something that's guaranteed in the Constitution. It's got to do with federal money, and premiers often bring it up, and it's just something you should just not pay much attention to. But he does have a point. Why is it that in Atlantic Canada there should be more government subsidies going towards allowing people to cross over a body of water compared to what's happening over on the West Coast?
In the West Coast, of course, the ferries are really part of the highway system. He was saying that for every dollar they get in a subsidy for BC ferries, in Atlantic Canada it's $300. Right. So it's quite a disparity there.
Well, look, I mean, I've lived in Newfoundland and Labrador a long time, and when I was there, it was a constant thorn, still is today. Why are they paying anything is what a lot of people would say, because it should be considered part of the Trans-Canada. So if you're in other parts of the country, you can just drive across the Trans-Canada and you normally don't have to pay any toll whatsoever. But if you live in a place like PEI, you live in a place like Newfoundland and Labrador, you're going to face some barriers.
And the truckers aren't getting the deal. We had a report on that a little earlier. The premiers just met with the Prime Minister. They've been getting together a lot. Unusual?
Highly unusual. I mean, the last time that we can really think about this is all the constitutional debates of leading up until the 1980s, early 1990s. And a big reason why this sort of thing doesn't happen is because we live in a world where if a premier wants to get national media attention, all they have to do is be at one of these events and then walk out and say, I'm not participating anymore until you do this.
Well, we've seen a lot of that in the past.
Yeah, but it's not happening right now because everybody understands that the gravity of this situation is much bigger than so many other things.
Yeah, it has been certainly a bit of a love-in, and the premiers all seem to be giving, a lot of rope to the Prime Minister on the trade conversations with the United States. Japan has a deal now, though, with the U.S. The EU, China, it didn't work out today, but they're in the process. Is there a fear of Canada to be on the outside looking in? And is the Prime Minister going to have to, show something here?
Right. Well, the first thing I would say is when it comes to Mark Carney, even many Conservatives like Mark Carney right now. So that's where we are in Canadian politics. It's really impossible to predict what deal is going to come out. I mean, and even if a deal does come out, how do we know that President Trump isn't going to change his mind later on? So I personally am not speculating about what we may or may not end up with.
Right. But does the Prime Minister need to show something at some point? I mean, he's been, saying, trust me, trust me, trust me. How much room do people give him before they say, look, we need to know what we're going to be living with?
Yeah, I think to some extent it's expectations management. So I think that what people are looking for in Canada is somebody who is calm, measured, and smart, and who can handle President Trump as best as anybody possibly can. I don't think that Canadians think that we're going to get a great deal out of this. If anything, we realize there's going to be all sorts of concessions. So a lot of it is the perception management that we're going to be looking at from Mark Carney's office. And
interior being interprovincial trade barriers, do you see much motion on that? There's certainly been a lot of talk.
Yeah, there has been, and the premiers are the ones leading it. But Mark Carney promised that all these things would get done by Canada Day. Right. That hasn't happened, and most people are just kind of giving him a free ride on it. But goodness, if anything comes out of all this disaster that's been going on, and it could lead to Canadian provinces actually trading goods with each other in a way that is unfettered compared to the past, that would be movement.
And we will certainly wait with bated breath. Alex Marland, thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
As always. We'll take a break. We'll be back with much more of your newscast after this.